greatest show in fantasy football history, hosted by the incomparable Scott Connor and the one and only Ray GQ. I present to you Destination Chill, where football and fantasy collide.
G-E-G-P. Welcome in, good people. It is Sunday, March 24th, 2024. Y'all decided to pull up, tap in, and check out Destination Chill with yours truly, Ray G. You can find me on X at Ray GQ, joined as always by my man, my brother from another mother, my partner in crime, Scott Connor. You can get at him at Charles Chill FFB. I'm feeling good tonight, people. I'm feeling damn good. We got a lot of people in the building. I'm just leaving a Dallas Legends game, Scott, my 4-year-old. He's a part of this Toddlers of Tomorrow program. So they did this halftime basketball performance out there for the G League team for the NBA for the Dallas Mavericks. But I'm fired up, baby. I'm fired up. We got a lot of people in the building. I see Ty DeClaire here, Jesse, Mike, Billy, Brandon in the building. Goat Rings as always. Jeezy, yeet, what's happening with you, baby? Graphic 13, Tunchi in the building, GEGP. Got a lot of beautiful people here. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about, Scott. I was I'm going to be honest with you, Connor. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't tell you this pre-show. We kind of talked earlier in the day. I was a little bit on my petty shit when we got up this morning. I was kind of like, I kind of want to be petty on Destination Chill tonight. I see people talking about their lack of understanding with wins above replacement and how these stats don't matter for fantasy football. I ain't going to be nasty today, but all I'm going to say is War Games is coming back this week. Scott and I are on it. We got a date set. We're going to record War Games, so make sure y'all tap in. If you don't think that stuff is applicable for fantasy football, come over to DD and learn something. I promise you'll be a better fantasy football player if you open your mind to allow new information in. I promise you, everybody out there that talks all that shit about warp, they don't understand it, it doesn't matter for fantasy, those are the type of cats telling y'all to hold on to Justin Fields. Trade first-round picks for Justin Fields. And the type of cats that talk about it, but they don't really be about it. So we'll get back to doing what we do, Scott. But how you doing this evening? I'm just, I'm feeling good, Scott. And a lot of these stones keep getting thrown, and there's only so much humbleness GQ is going to provide it before we start to get a little festive out here, baby.
Yeah, man. I'm good. I'm glad we didn't do War Games back when we had said we were going to do it. We had planned this whole thing out where we were going to do it live every week from, it was like middle of January through the combine. And I think you and I kind of went back and we were able to develop even a better understanding of our own tool and how to apply it, but also how to deliver it in a way where I think it's going to be actionable for people that are in all types of leagues, which is what we do on Destination Chill. We're trying to appeal to just the average fantasy player that may look at this and go, how can I benefit from this? I don't have a portfolio. I don't play in the leagues that are as exotic as you guys play in. We're going to really try to take it to a level where everybody can get something out of it. Everybody can use it. So I'm super excited to debut it. It's going to be us talking through pretty much all things war, why it matters, some of the limitations of it, how to use it, how to use the tool, how to apply it to whatever leagues you're playing in. And there's going to be some restrictions as to, okay, it doesn't work perfectly for everybody. But that's part of the conversation versus just it doesn't matter. It's not predictive. It's not going to be able to tell me the future. Well, newsflash, that's not what you're selling that tool to be. That's not what it never was developed to be. So it's not a future-telling tool, just like nothing else in this space is. How else am I doing, Ray? I'm ready for this mock. I took down my Kentucky hats behind me just because they're the only team that really wasn't chalk to make the Sweet 16 that didn't make it. So I look at this bracket and I'm like, man, all the other favorites advanced, and of course they got knocked out on the first night. And, the kid that hit 10 threes, of course, he missed 11 threes in the next game, and they got eliminated because, of course, that's what's going to happen. But I'm good, man. I'm ready to tap into my 1 QB brain tonight just because we don't do that a lot, but we want to appeal to a lot of the people that constantly go, can you guys talk 1 QB? What's the difference? When do I draft quarterbacks? How do I value tight ends? How do I get hammers? How do I take shots to try to get hammers when nobody will trade me hammers? So I'm excited for it. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, man, and for all of y'all who have been under a rock, baby, y'all know Destination Devi, the draft is where we dominate, and that's what we do. So make sure you set your calendars all 3 days of the NFL draft. DD, we're going live. We're giving away dope stuff. We're going to have great conversations. We're going to talk through values. We're going to talk dynasty rankings, where you should be drafting these guys in seasonal leagues, underdog fantasy, all that good stuff. So mark your calendars. DD is dominating the draft this year, 2024. We're going to take that thing over on the internet. And if you are not signed up for Underdog Fantasy yet, use the promo code DDD, 3 Ds, triple D. You get automatically entered into the giveaways. We're giving away, Scott, 5 Heisman level memberships for an entire year. We gave away 3 during the combine up until the draft, but we're giving them away 5 annual memberships to Heisman. We've got 10 jerseys, player cards, roster reviews, all types of dope stuff, all gas hats, DD hats. We're giving everything away. Make sure you sign up for Underdog Fantasy using that code DDD, and then you're right in the damn building, Scott. But we are about 7 minutes into the show. I want to bring up one thing before we get to the mock, and this is something that you saw that you wanted to talk about really quickly and just wanted everyone's opinion on this sort of, I don't want to call it issue, but situation that popped up in the fantasy football, NFL football space. Let's talk about it. Deion Sanders, Scott. Deion Sanders, can you just read the premise of the tweet off and just go ahead and pop off with what you want to talk about, baby?
Yeah, I mean, this was circulating today. I read it this morning. Deion Sanders basically said that certain teams, certain weather conditions, certain situations are going to be off limits for both his son, Shador Sanders, and Travis Hunter. If you look at mock drafts, both of them are mocked to go very high. I've seen some with Travis Hunter and Shador in the top 5. So I don't think it's crazy that both these guys are, let's just conservatively say, first-round picks next year with chances of being much higher than that.
Yes.
And basically, that's the exact quote. You could see it on the screen. Like, I know where I want them to go. I know where I don't want them to go. And reference the Eli Manning situation of it will be 20 years since the Eli Manning situation, I believe. 2004, right? I believe was the draft
04.
that they were coming out.
04.
So 20 years since Eli pulled the switcheroo, don't want to go to the Chargers. Rivers ended up going to the Chargers, etc. But, I put this out. All I did, Ray, was retweet it and say, I agree with it. And, man, that thread just blew up with people going, it's going to ruin the NFL. Got into, I hate all the other sports because they don't have salary caps and the players have all the power and they leverage their way off of teams that aren't winning and they go team up with others, or they have too much financial power. Teams are basically paying, like baseball, they're paying contracts to players that aren't even playing. They're fully guaranteed. It ruins the team. So I just kind of want to weigh in and get some thoughts from people. We won't spend too much on this topic, but we have to understand that what Deion is saying is this is one of the few times when a player is coming into the league. It's one of the few times where they have some control over how they're viewed from a perception standpoint. And are they really going to be able to control what team they go to, Ray? No. If a team says, I'm drafting Shador Sanders because he's the best quarterback in this draft and I don't care what he wants, we're drafting him on our team, he's not ultimately going to have a choice. But they're just putting some public pressure, I think, on teams to say, all right, look at how you treat players. We can't forget the team report card stuff that came back a month ago or so now. And you just look at some of the complaints, ridiculous stuff, the treatment of families at the facilities, the availability of, workout equipment, the availability of food and supplements and all that kind of stuff, just basic stuff that would allow you or I, if we were going out in the workforce and saying we're going to look for a job and we're in a certain industry, you're going to look at some specific things like this, right? Which ones treat their employees better? Which ones have more convenient options working remotely? Whatever it is. And really, I think that's a lot of what he's saying, is it isn't like, okay, he's not going to the Giants. You notice he didn't say any names. He mentioned something about cold weather, doesn't want him going and playing in a cold climate, which, newsflash to Deion, that could be half the teams in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say I'm avoiding every team that's not on the West Coast or down south. Like, all of them could have snowstorms and blizzards and frigid cold weather. But I think it's just more of a bigger picture of treating players correctly. There's only so much that current players can do and incoming players can do to affect the CBA. You're not going to get rid of a lot of those things that we know are advantageous to owners. the contracts. They're not going to be fully guaranteed. They're not going to get rid of the franchise tag. They're still going to have options on players. They're still going to have fifth year options they can take advantage of, all this kind of stuff. But I think this is just one of the things that players can now come into the league. And I heard this on PFT. A lot of people don't like Mike Florio or Chris Sims, blah, blah, blah. But Chris Sims makes a great point. He said players coming into today's NFL, especially the elite ones that were good recruits and that, bounced around through schools, looking at NIL, like for 5 years, they've been used to talking money already. They're talking money from the point they're 15, 16 years old. Their parents are talking money in high school. College, their entire recruitment is kind of about, there's money that's being talked about, right? Sponsorships, NIL money, like they're more business savvy and they're also more image savvy in terms of, all right, if I go to this team, there's going to be a brand that I'm going to build, whatever else I want to get into off the field. We know Prime's involved in a lot of stuff off the field. So I think it's just trying to shape that for these guys before they get to the league. But it's also a little bit of a subtle shot at the league itself. Like you already kind of have the players, over the barrel to an extent based on the CBA. We know it's more favorable to teams and owners than it is players. And it's probably never going to change. There's too much to overcome the deal. There's not enough that they're willing to trade at the next CBA to make it super favorable to the players. So I think it's just a person of power that he's going to have 1 year with these two guys coming into the draft where he's trying to speak up and just see what influence he can have. So that's my thoughts. I think people are overblowing it like, oh, man, he's going to tell these guys to go back to college and not go play pro ball or sit out. I don't think it's going to get that far. But I think he's throwing shade a year out, even before this year's draft, to kind of see how certain teams respond between now and then. And we'll see how it works.
Yeah, you did a good job going through that. There are a lot of things that I feel about this topic that I'm not going to share publicly on this forum. I'll just say, when it all boils down to it, there are probably few people who understand the business of the NFL, of being a high-level player, being a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest to ever do it, like Deion Sanders. He understands it from front to back, cover to cover, every chapter of that book. He's a pro at it. And to be in a position to coach your son, everybody that's listening to this, if you got children, you've got an opportunity to coach your son, who is projected to be one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the 2025 class, and a player that you view as a son in Travis Hunter, and you don't think that with everything that you know about the league or your company or your job or your business or your area of expertise, you wouldn't have the best interest of your kid at the top of your mind, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. This is a situation that majority of us, I'd say 99.9% of people in the world, will never have the type of power to influence or affect where their child or a close relative or friend will be able to produce, earn money, play at. If you got it like that, use it. So I just think that people don't like Deion Sanders by the way that he goes about doing things. And again, I think it's a little deeper than just production on a football field. But I will leave it here and right there for tonight, because we got to get into the mock draft. So let's pull up the sleeper board. We are going to do a single quarterback, half PPR, but it is 1.5 tight end premium. Rookie draft, Scott, you are going to start this thing off at 101. And the way that I got the board set, it's 6 picks. It is snake, but it will start back off at 301. So it's easier to have everything on the same screen like this. It just looks a little cleaner than trying to zoom out, zoom in. So here we go, Scott. Philosophy, quickly, 15 to 30 seconds, philosophy of how you attack a 1 QB draft where it's half PPR, but you've got a 1.5 tight end premium here, which, considering everything else is just half PPR, just initial thoughts and strategies for attacking a draft format like this.
Well, I know why I rock with Ray. Look how smart he was to make it a 6-team draft so we can get all the picks. I mean, just the brilliance of putting that together at the last minute is awesome. We're assuming it's a lineup league here.
Yes.
We didn't really give any parameters on number of starters or anything like that. Let's just make it a typical start 10. Nothing crazy, but nothing super shallow. So 12 teams, start 10, 1 QB, half PPR, 1.5 tight end premium. We'll just make it 22-man rosters. Like, we will make it pretty balanced. It's not super deep, but not super shallow. So I think if you're in a league like this, I mean, there is 9 other starters besides the QBs. QBs, I think There's going to be a good discussion on when to take QBs, how to pick QBs, what type of QBs you want to take shots on when you don't care about QBs. But I really think it's just about trying to find positional advantages, trying to find value you can move around the board. I wouldn't say depth matters a ton, but I think it matters a little bit more than we usually get it credit for. When we see start 9 or start 10, Ray, we're usually thinking super flex, right?
Correct.
But think about if it's single QB start 10, you're not just removing a super flex. You're removing a whole segment of the trade market, QB-wise, out.
Yep.
So, like, those flex players, obviously you want to get studs, but those flex players matter more. The more of those you have, the more trade assets you have. QBs, backup QBs, those aren't trade assets. So I think it's important to remember you're removing only one quarterback, but you're also removing 25% of the trade asset pool. So that's going to affect how I pick some of these players. So I'll start it off. If you hit the 101 this year's class, really 101, 102, you feel awesome. But Marv's an obvious pick. We don't even get into what it would take to move this pick, but it starts with maybe the top 5 or 6 skill players in Dynasty. And if you're not coming to the table with one of those, I'm just picking Marv. Easy.
So let's just go. Let's go. Marv. Malik goes off the board at 102. You can argue Rome Odunze if you want. So let's just say Marv is here, 101. We'll set that pretty easily. We're going to go Neighbors 102. Neighbors 102. Yep. And then Rome Odunze, are we in agreement that Rome Odunze is 103? Single quarterback, should be Rome Odunze 103.
Yeah, I mean, you could debate Bowers only because there's no QBs, but I think we'll go with Odunze. I think he'll go there, so put him in.
There it is. 101, 102, 103. Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze, wide receivers off of the board. You touched on it, Brock Bowers. Talk about him because I believe that in this particular format with these particular settings where you're getting double up for the tight end, I think this is where I would feel comfortable taking Brock Bowers in a single quarterback league.
Yeah, I mean, and it's 1.5 with a half PPR. So if you run the war on this, the difference between the common PPR for the other players and the 1.5 is even more magnified. It's equivalent to like a 2 PPR league, anyone that plays in 2 tight end premium leagues. So I think he's extremely valuable, but he's also valuable here because without the QBs, given that the QBs are a onesie position here, you're taking a shot. Listen, if he doesn't hit Ray, he doesn't hit. But if he does, he rises to probably a top 12 player overall in Dynasty just because he's the best tight end or one of the top 2 tight ends in the sport. And it's the tight end premium is such where someone's going to take him there. So I think you could argue Bowers over the 103, honestly, or over Odunze. If you think Odunze is just, a high-end wide receiver too, I think you could argue it.
The only reason I didn't do that, and Carlos says, isn't there a case for Bowers 101? But the reason why I didn't put him over Odunze is not everybody has Odunze as wide receiver 3. Some people think he's better than Malik Neighbors, and there are quite a few that have him over Neighbors. Hell, there's some people that have got Neighbors over Marv. So for the sake of this exercise, all 3 of them are just lumped together for me. I don't want to start, I like him more. It's Neighbors or Odunze at 2. So I think, can you make a case in a format like this for Bowers 101?
I don't know about 101, but I think what you just said speaks to if you have one of these top 4 picks, would you say you feel pretty good about whatever happens if you're at 103, 104? You're kind of like, okay, the trade value for that 103 or 104 that you get offered is probably not going to be what you're going to pick. I think it's this spot, 105 and beyond, where you're like, all right, I'm much more flexible to taking some offers.
Well, let's talk through it and let's use some of the things that we talk about. ADV, how the Dynasty community views these players. And I'm going to put some caveats around this. Let's just assume, for the sake of this exercise, right now, the next, Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, they're all top 50 picks. Well, I don't care where they're top 50 picks. They were at least mid-second round picks at worst. So then we can just proceed forward with that. So let's talk through the 105 right here, Scott, because I think this is sort of tier break in single quarterback leagues. Do you want to just go with receiver here? Is there can I interest you at all in a world where we get a second round running back to the Dallas Cowboys, to the Baltimore Ravens, or not Ravens because Henry's there, but the Dallas Cowboys, let's use that one for example. Trey Benson, Blake Corum, Jonathan Brooks goes to Dallas. Any shot, the RB1 that lands in Dallas, that lands in Los Angeles, ends up here in the top 6 picks of a single quarterback league.
I think top six, possibly.
And think about, try to speak for the fantasy masses, not how we personally view the running back position. But if Trey Benson or Blake Corum or Jonathan Brooks, hell, Marshawn Lloyd lands in Dallas in the second round, would that propel them inside the top 6? Garrison says yes. He says yes. He over Brian Thomas, over Ladd McConkey. Like, the more that this goes on, I think so. Like, I think that people are starving for a running back. So just your thoughts on that.
I agree. I think it's a good bet that there will be a running back that goes in a spot and gets the prerequisite draft capital, whether that be early third, late second, whatever, that someone will be tempted to take him here. I also think because there's so many receivers, Ray, a receiver in Buffalo, a receiver in Dallas, a receiver in a great spot also may be at this spot. So I'm willing to hedge and say 5 and 6 are going to be like, there's a big cluster of players it could be, but it's going to be a receiver and it's going to be a running back.
Okay.
So I would lean Brian Thomas because I think he's going to be the best receiver off the board, the highest draft capital, but I also think he's big and he's fast. And I think people see half PPR, they go, I need TD upside, I need big play upside, I need good draft capital. All it takes for BTJ is a decent spot. And I think people will take him here. But I'll concede it's probably a running back next. Pick your RB1. I think whoever you think, I'd just say put him in the spot.
That's what we're doing this for. And I want to do it with you, baby. I do think I'm with you with Brian Thomas Jr. here. I believe he'll be the one that gets the capital. So you just take, but again, I'm just basing this off of what we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks. It feels like there's going to be a RB or two that land into some RB needy spots in the second round. So for the sake of this argument, who do you want to pencil in as who does Dallas take? I'm asking you, and I'm the damn Dallas fan.
Okay, well, I'm going to push back on you. Let's say it's Brooks, because you've been saying Brooks to Dallas in the second for, before almost anybody. But let's say it's Brooks. Does the injury scare people off, or because we're not going to probably hear on his injury until after this person makes this pick. But is the power of the spot and the capital and the name enough to just put him in this spot given the format? Let's say, is it Brooks? Brooks to Dallas, is he the pick here? Or does your mind change?
I'll tell you this, Terrell Sandiford, Cody Smith, a couple of other people on Destination Debbie during the combine sort of changed my thought process on this. 4 weeks ago, I'd have been like, it's Brooks. You get it. I don't care about the ACL. Those are things of the past. But everybody keeps telling me, why on earth would you invest this type of capital into a running back that you're not going to probably get the type of production that you're looking for in year one? They're coming off of a major knee injury. We don't truly know how athletic the running back is, despite the fact that the tape tells us he's good. A lot of people have told me there's not a shot in hell they would take Jonathan Brooks with a top 15 pick in Superflex, let alone a top 6 pick in single quarterback. So if it is Jonathan Brooks to Dallas, I probably still would not take him here at the 106 spot, Scott. I would want to see where Benson, where Brooks, where Benson, where Corum, where Marshawn Lloyd, where those guys end up before locking in that selection today. So for the sake of this argument, Jonathan Brooks goes to Dallas in the second round at the 106 spot. I think I'm going to just go wide receiver here. I think a running back probably should come off of the board, but if it's Brooks, I can't do it at the 106 spot. So after Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, it's literally pick your flavor right here. Who do you want? Xavier Worthy, Adnan Mitchell, Ladd McConkey. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm thinking of the player that probably, that if I had to project getting the capital today, later in the draft, probably a good landing spot. I'm going Adnan Mitchell at 106.
Yeah, you sniped me. I was looking at him as probably the highest ceiling receiver in the eyes of the community, but also the best, I think, to get landing in a spot where people are going to go, I got to have him. So that's who I would have taken. And there was a comment in the chat, Ricardo Martinez, my insulation theory about Jonathan Brooks. I still think there's insulation to Brooks if we get word that he's not fully ready to go, because people will just give him a pass for next year. But here's the thing. I don't want to use the 106 on a guy that I have to accept a pass on. That's more for like, okay, if he's there, mostly super flex, but if he's there in like the early second, but the word is he's not going to start right away, like he's going to start on PUP, then I'll take him because I think I get a reprieve on my investment. But here, what am I getting the reprieve for, Ray? I'm still blowing the 106 on him. You know what I mean? Like I'm paying the tax already for something I hope holds. We know a guy that is drafted at the 106 and he doesn't play or doesn't do anything early. He's not going to hold his value at the 106 next year. So to me, this is too early to apply that theory, but I still think it exists.
And I just want to say this about Brooks. And Scott, you said it. I've been saying Brooks to Dallas since October of the 2023 college football season. If he doesn't get on the field early this year, all I'm going to say, and I've said this repeatedly, and you're seeing more people on X start to talk about this, the 2025 NFL draft class at the running back position is absolutely loaded. It is insane. Ashton Gentry. You could go Ollie Gordon, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen. The list of talent, Omarion Hampton from the 2025 class, like these are guys that would have been RB1 in this class. So if he doesn't play this year, the influx of running backs coming in next year, I don't think Brooks holds his value, but Benson did get second-round capital, and let's just say for this exercise, Blake Corum did also get day 2 capital as well. As we continue on, 106 was 80 Mitchell, 107 Scott. Let's go 107. Who's off the board at 107?
Well, if you tell me Benson goes in the second, I think there's enough people that will talk about he's the elite one in this class. Now, the landing spot we know is going to matter, but I think he would be the RB1 if he goes in the second round. And before you pick, I want to pick your brain. Let's say you are looking for running backs.
Remove. Okay.
No. Pick. No, I meant before you pick. Lock Benson in. Let's go Benson 107. But before you pick, let's say you are looking running backs. And you're like, man, there's so many running backs. The best player in my eyes is a receiver. I can get a receiver 12 picks later. We know there's going to be a lot in this class. Are you already moving one of these picks for a future first next year, right?
If I can, I would. I've got no
problem. RB. Okay.
Yes.
In a 1 QB where you're half PPR, you're more aggressive trying to get the 25 first to address the running back than force a pick here then is what you're saying. Okay.
Correct. And cool. Carlos said it. Carlos said, man, 1 QB is rough. Shows how much you should devalue the picks unless it's nailed on early. I mean, it is rough.
Yep.
And here's I don't know why it feels so different, Scott, in single quarter. Superflex, I'm all excited. Give me all the Lad McConkey I can get at the 110. Give me all that Xavier Leggett at 201, 112. And then I'm sitting here like, do I really want to spend my one? If I can move my 108 for a 25 first, leverage it on something else, Leggett, Coleman, McConkey, Frank, like people in the chat, Franklin, easy wide receiver 4. This is where War can help some of y'all. This is literally where War can help some of you because outside of him turning into Deshaun Jackson, literally, if he's just okay and he's an average player, there's no difference between Troy Franklin and about 45 other wide receivers in the NFL. Give me the chance and the shot of an elite capital player in 2025 over picking the wide receiver 6 in the class. So Benson's off the board here. We talked about Brooks to Dallas. Would you take Brooks here at the 108 spot?
I mean, if he goes to Dallas, I think if you're truly looking for a running back, there's some conviction here, but you're like, man, it's probably a team that already has a bunch of mid-tier receivers, and they're like, do I really want to waste another pick on that? I either trade it out or I draft who I think the running back on the board is that's the best one. So I would say Brooks to Dallas is a fair pick here.
Can I interest you in any X-worthy right here? This is also Xavier worthy. It is 1.5 tight end premium. Jatavian Sanders. I saw somebody on Twitter today talking about how people aren't bullish enough on JT Sanders just because he didn't run a 4.4 40-yard dash. So can I interest you in X-worthy before we lock in Jonathan Brooks to Dallas here at the 108?
I think Worthy would probably be the receiver that I would take clearly over the other positions that we could consider or other trades. But I would still probably go a running back just for the format. I'm guessing most leagues like this that I've seen that people have questions on, it often comes with the caveat of, man, my league overvalues running backs. Any running back, you know what I mean? Any running back that's getting touches are harder to get in this type of league. And it's to your point, the reason it feels so gross, because you've removed an entire position out of the trade pool. Not that QBs aren't valuable, but it's like everyone wants to get Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen. You know, other than that, I don't care. That's why it feels so gross, because you've removed an entire position. And tight end doesn't hold a lot of trade leverage anyway. So half PPR, I think it just by default, it's running back.
Well, let's keep it going, because right here I was about to lock in Xavier Worthy at the 109 spot, but yet I saw two people in the chat say this should be Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, Cole World says Caleb probably gets taken, reached on by a non-playoff team. And then there was somebody else said this is a Caleb Williams spot. And then D-Bro's in the building. Shout out to D-Bro. Appreciate you, D-Bro. Said Jaden is in that conversation. And then Ricardo says, this is where I lean. No QB should be taken round one in a single quarterback league. That's where I at least right here, I'm not taking a damn quarterback at the 109. Like, I can't do it, Scott. Not in a single quarterback league outside of some crazy bonuses. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me we should be taking a quarterback here at the 109.
It takes some conviction. You're not wrong, but if you can sit there and envision Caleb Williams becomes Patrick Mahomes or Jaden Daniels becomes Lamar Jackson, then okay, I could justify the pick. But I could also tell you a story that in one QB, people go, oh man, should I give up a third-round pick for Justin Fields? You know, Justin Fields, I don't even know what he's going to be, but you know what I know? That if he plays 6 games, he jumps almost right into the top 6. So if you can piece together a QB room where you never use a first-round pick on a QB, then why draft a guy where you're hoping becomes a positional advantage player here just because you can get him with a rookie pick? Do you know what I mean? So you got to know your market. Some of these leagues, quarterbacks are really highly valued. People will hoard 5 of them and go, I'm just not going to trade them. But in leagues where you can patchwork together non-long-term production, and that's the thing. If I trade a 212 for Justin Fields here and he only starts 6 more games in his career, guess what? That was probably worth it, because I don't care if I lose a QB long-term in a 1 QB. Big deal. You know what I mean? I'll just go chase the next one because they should be cheap enough that I can find a guy like Fields or the next Fields dirt cheap rather than spending the 109. So I'm kind of with you. I would lean going back to receiver. I'd go X Worthy here.
Let's do it. X Worthy. Let's lock in Xavier Worthy here at the 109 spot. I mean, crazy time. I mean, especially in a lineup league, 1 QB, if you roster construct your wide receiver room the right way, he would be a great addition, especially if he gets that starting job at some point. You know there's going to be volatility, but the 1 week where he catches 5 catches, 2 of them for touchdowns, and he goes for $152, you'll be like, man, that was worth the selection alone for the spike week that he gave you right there. So X-Worthy off the board at 109. I'm hearing a lot of people say Daniels, Williams, and maybe Daniels over Caleb because of the rushing upside if you're going to take quarterback in round 1. Do you want to pull the trigger on a quarterback here at the 110 spot? Or do you want to go Blake Corum, who was a day 2 pick, or go back to the wide receiver pool, which we could pick whichever one we like because they're kind of just there. Quarterback, running back, receiver. Where are we at?
Well, someone earlier said if it's 6 point per passing touchdown, the relative scoring of QBs to all the other positions is higher because it's half PPR, right?
Yes.
So if you could get a QB in a 6 point per passing touchdown, I might lean Caleb. If it's 4 point, you could lean Jaden Daniels. But the point is you're chasing a positional advantage. I'm still going to pass. I still think there's another running back. I don't know who it's going to be.
We don't know.
But I think this is true in Superflex. It's true in this. There's going to be another running back that occupies a spot, whether it's Jalen Wright, Blake Corum. Somebody gets a spot where we go, damn, that guy might start week 1. That guy's on the field week 1. And I just think in this format, someone's going to take him. I'd probably lean it being Corum. Corum to the Chargers. He's off the board already, don't you think? It's a wrap. He's gone.
Corum to the Chargers. He's coming off the board in Jonathan Brooks' spot, I believe. Corum to the Chargers. He's off the board in Brooks' spot.
Taking him. Throw him in there. He's gone.
Yeah, he's in Brooks' spot. But I do have a sneaky running back that my fingers and my hopium, my fandom hopium is hoping it plays out. It's Marshawn Lloyd from USC to Dallas. I think he'd be an incredible fit with the Dallas Cowboys, and I'll leave it at that. Blake Corum, 110, we're at the 111 spot. Scott, 111 spot, Jatavian Sanders, 1.5 tight end premium. He's going to be a day 2 pick.
You that convicted on him, taking him here. You good with that?
I'm just asking. I mean, we're talking about the tight ends. We were comfortable taking Brock Bowers hell at the 101 spot, and we're here at the back of the first for Sanders, and it's the format. And again, just my thought, I believe he's still going to be a day 2 pick, probably coming off of the board in round 2. Or we can go back to receiver. Ladd McConkey, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels.
Let me ask you this. Is there a receiver on the board that you could envision, if everything clicks, has a wide receiver 1 or better ceiling? And not just do you think they could get there, but the community would go, holy shit, that guy's a stud. Is there anyone on the board that fits
wide
that
receiver
criteria?
1? Like the wide receiver?
No, just
or like just top 12?
Can they get into like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave range? No, higher. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, where they're so good analytically early on that the community just has to have them. There isn't anybody like that.
I think these are a lot of good receivers, but to pencil them in as those guys, that's straight. That is injecting the hopium directly into your ass. Like you're pulling your pants down and you're getting the needle of hopium and jamming it right there in your butt cheek. No, I don't believe that to be the case. And that ain't no shame to these guys, but they're no.
So then if you say that that's not going to be the case, then you're looking at a lot of receivers that are just in the flat zone, right? Mm-hmm. And in a 1.5 premium relative to half PPR, if Jatavian Sanders just isn't Irv Smith and he just busts, I think he's fine. I think he's going to score relative to those other players, plus positional advantage you're chasing. Let's go. Let's go JT, 111.
Let's do it. JT Sanders off of the board, 111, and then at 112, is this where it's okay to take? Here's the thing. If you take a quarterback here, it's probably going to go QB. It's probably going to be Daniels and Williams. Is probably what would happen at 112, 201.
Right. I don't love this guy. I know you're not high on him, which is probably you haven't said his name yet on the stream, but I think there's just a pocket of people out there. I think the ADV is ripe for Troy Franklin over every other receiver.
Okay.
Depending on where he lands, I just think he's the one that if he lands in his, because here's the thing with the receivers, we have to remember, we're drafting these receivers before we know where they land, right? There could be a dog shit landing spot for Troy Franklin where people go, okay, I liked him, but I don't want him now because he's on the Eagles. No thanks, I'll pass. But we're kind of assuming, like, not knowing that all else is equal. I just think he's got the level of ADV that a lot of the other names don't. So I just think he would be gone. If he gets a half decent landing spot, good enough capital, I think he's gone. So I'm going to make an executive decision and pick him 112.
There it is. Executive call. There's the first round. Let's start it off at the 201 spot. I think at this point I am going to take Caleb Williams here, QB1 off the board. Just sure. Take him. I'm just taking him. There's little analysis right here.
Go Jaden.
All right.
Yep, good. Go Jaden then. Because I do agree with you. One goes, the other person that needs a QB sees these two, and they have to have them. So draft starts at 203. Now what?
Well,
is this a Marshawn Lloyd? Is this a Jalen Wright? Is this going back to
Marshawn
receivers?
Lloyd. It's Marshawn Lloyd team. It's Marshawn Lloyd time for me at the 203 spot. I do believe, Scott, that Lloyd is going to get day 2 capital. He's going to be drafted in the second? I don't know. Maybe not, but he could slide in there. But I do believe before we get out of day 2 of the NFL draft, we will hear Marshawn Lloyd's name called. Let's freaking go. Fight on, Trojans. So happy for that young man to get his career back on track. Do it all skill set, and we both thoroughly enjoyed him at the Senior Bowl. So there we go. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Marshawn Lloyd. I don't know about Wright. I'm still, I don't know. I think his landing spot is going to be very, very, very important. Half PPR, 1.5 tight end premium.
It's another running back, and it's not Jalen Wright. But I'm looking right now, being mocked in the middle of the third. It's Braylon Allen. He's got the ADV. Can I tell you a story where Braylon Allen in a half PPR early on looks like a guy people have to have? Doesn't he just look the part in a half PPR? Just picture people telling you about this league, and they're going, man, those Derrick Henry's been worth 2 firsts in this league for 8 years. Give me Braylon Allen. Just saying, it's probably the league where they still want a first to trade away Joe Mixon. Derrick Henry, I need a first if I'm trading one of those guys away.
So and I think this is,
you can't blame people.
This is an interesting conversation because we're talking half PPR, not full PPR, right?
Yep.
When we're looking at the list of remaining receivers, Scott, Ladd McConkey, Keon, Leggett, Burton, Polk, Pearsall, Roman Wilson, Brendan Rice. Situation is that's going to be the thing that really separates them, where they land. Like the situation, I believe the capital, every receiver that we just named, they're coming off the board round 2 to round 3. All Ladd, Keon, Leggett, Pearsall, Roman Wilson, Brendan Rice, I would say comfortably, are probably off of the board by the end of night 2. So it's really going to be situation. Which one of those guys lands in Dallas versus landing in Miami versus landing in New England versus landing in Los Angeles? And I think that's going to be the separator. There's nothing outside of personal preference and bias that will separate most of these remaining receivers from one another. I do believe the highest rated one left is Ladd McConkey, but I think this is going to be the spot where a lot of running backs go, dude. I think a lot of running backs, Jalen Wright, Will Shipley, even some that go to the 4th or 5th round that go to good spots. What if Dallas forgoes running back until the 4th or the 5th and they take Will Shipley, they take Jalen Wright, whomever it is, Audric Estime? It's going to be running back island around this time period, but I'm going to take Ladd McConkey right here at the where we're at the 205 spot. I'm going to take Ladd McConkey here. And I kind of want to take one more. I think I'm gonna finish off this board, and I'm gonna take one more. And I've been coming around more and more and more on this player. And if I'm in a single quarterback league here at the 206 spot, I'm just shooting for the guy that can boom. And if he busts, then it is what it is. But I think a very high leverage boom type player is Xavier Leggett. So I'm taking Xavier Leggett here at the 206 spot.
Yeah, I mean, just do the math on some of these receivers, and I could give you a stat line on someone like Ricky Pearsall, who would be in the conversation. Roman Wilson could be in the conversation. But you just have to realize that a guy that goes 90 catches for 900 yards and 6 TDs, you'd be ecstatic if Ricky Pearsall gave you 3 seasons of 90 for 906 TDs, right? But do the math. What is that production-wise? How hard is it to find that 10 points per game in half PPR? You know what I mean? Like, that's probably less than someone like Gus Edwards is going to score. Now, it's a short period of time, but The other thing to remember is how many tight ends last year in 1.5 premium scored 10 points per game? Like 9 of them. So if you're not wanting to make a pick here, right, can I trade one of these picks for Jake Ferguson? Someone like that, and I'm betting I'm probably getting the same production. So really we're in ADV territory here. Or if I'm drafting a receiver, and we may run out of running backs that people love landing spot-wise, we've already drafted 5. There may not be another one that people have to have, right? So I think you do start having to look at your league market and make these receiver picks based on ADV, which is probably why Roman Wilson isn't picked yet. Ricky Pearsall isn't picked yet. They're good, but I don't know if they have the clout to go, man.
Right.
Unless they just come out and go 10 for 100 in week 1.
Right.
Like the win, it's just tough to sell me a story where I sell Roman Wilson for a profit. You know what I mean? So where do you want to go? Because I think there is arguments to go just those placeholder receivers, but I think my point was bigger that there's probably more you can do with these picks if someone's looking at Ricky Pearsall and Roman Wilson going, damn, that guy's going 204 in a super flex PPR league. Man, I'm getting him here at the 207 in a 1 QB, and I think there's just better things you can do with the picks.
Let me just ask you really quickly, Drake May, does he have enough rushing potential, in your opinion, to be selected here? No. Because if not, while I think like
McCarthy
him,
has more than Drake May.
I was going to bring that up. I think JJ's, I think people are, because we didn't see it a lot last year, but you can go check the old GQ receipts from like 2021. I thought McCarthy was en route to becoming a sort of, I don't want to say a true dual threat quarterback, but a lot more damage done with his legs than he ended up becoming at Michigan. I think there's a lot of untapped rushing potential, and it may be J.J. McCarthy is more of the tactical scrambler, sort of like Dak Prescott was early in his career. You would never look at Dak and be like, he's the Konami code, but a very effective tactic scrambler. I think that could be J.J. McCarthy. So let's leave quarterback alone. Highest ADV wide receiver on the board right now versus the highest ADV running back on the board. For me, the receiver that's got the most ADV is Keon Coleman, I believe. I think people like to shit on him, but if he goes out there and balls out, people will be right in on Keon Coleman. So if I had to make a pick here at the 207, it'd be Keon.
Yeah, and I also think we're assuming he gets the draft capital too.
Correct.
You know what I mean? If you're telling me he goes in the top 50, I think people are going to forgo some of the thoughts they had on him because a lot of the reactions after the combine are, oh, man, he's going to slip in the draft. But if he doesn't, if he goes in round 4, we're not picking him here, right? But if he gets capital like the other guys, then I think by far he has the highest ceiling, perception-wise and ADV-wise.
And
I just want to make the point about the quarterbacks.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, these quarterbacks that are athletic but are not runners, like if you're betting on a quarterback being an elite efficiency passer, they're not going to run. Joe Burrow's athletic. Trevor Lawrence is athletic. Justin Herbert's athletic. You know what I mean? The goal is not for them to run, though. They'll scramble, like you said, the tactical scrambling, but I don't think you can look at a 40 time and go, oh, yeah, Drake May's athletic. And then, because I've made this mistake before, Justin Herbert, he'll be able to run for 600 yards in the NFL. He's athletic. Then it's like you get out there and it's like that's not what they want him to do. They don't want him running for that. So to just pencil in, oh, these guys are going to be able to give you 40-plus points on the ground a season, I think that's too much. So I would still fade the QBs here.
And Debro said Wright versus Ricky P. I like Ricky Pearsall too, but he does not. And he does not have the ADV that Keon Coleman does. You might like him. I like him, think he's a very good player. But by and large, the fantasy community, if both of those players were good, in quotes, people would gravitate towards Keon Coleman more. He's got more ADV than Ricky Pearsall, and I like Pearsall. Where do you want to go? Let's kind of rapid fire this, Scott. We're down to the 10-minute warning. So where do you want to go right here? You want to go running back, or is it now
Yes.
we are truly getting into flat wide receiver tier land right here? So running back, Jalen Wright?
I think we go Wright. He's a home run hitter. People like home run hitters in this kind of format because they can get big crooked numbers, like Shane likes to say. So I think Wright's probably the last running back we'll probably take for the next 3 or 4 picks.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, Ray, just to kind of speed it up, we're going to draft Drake May and J.J. McCarthy in this draft. I don't know where we're going to take them, but at some point there's going to be a team that goes, man, I don't really have a QB3. Or my QB2 is Derek Carr, and I don't know if he'll last more than half a season. You know what I mean? Like someone will just take a QB here because they go, I already have 7 running backs and 9 receivers, so I'm just going to take my need. So I do think they will go by probably the end of the second, if not the first couple picks of the third. So I don't know if you want to just pencil them in with the caveat that they're need-based.
Nah, we'll get there when we get there. Let's keep it going. I was going to put him in.
Then it's
I was going to put him in right
Roman
here.
Wilson and Ricky Pearsall. Those would be the next 2 receivers.
All right. Roman and Ricky. For those of y'all who've seen Boys in the Hood. Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall. I agree with you there. Fuck it. Let's just do it.
Do you even want these picks anymore? Other than you're taking shots on bodies and it's pure ADV and
it's pure ADV.
Running back bodies, right? Basically.
If this were me and I'm at the 301 spot, it's half PPR, 1.5 tight end premium. If it were me and I had to make the next pick, like, oh my God, my fantasy life depends on it. Who am I picking? What do I do right here? Man, it is pure hopium, and it is straight just ADV, praying to God that the San Francisco 49ers somehow draft him. Somehow, just please, just draft him. It's just straight ADV. But Brendan Rice has been getting a lot more steam of late, despite the fact that, whatever. But he's done a good job through the pre-draft process. His combine times, what he did at the Senior Bowl, Pro Day looked great. So Brendan Rice coming off the board at 301 for me.
Would you trade this pick straight up for a Miles Sanders type? Just a guy that you know is going to have a short-term, somewhat of a role. You just don't know how good he's actually going to be.
Yeah, sure. If I'm competing, absolutely.
So if you're sitting here looking at these picks, looking for pure ADV, and you can go buy a backup running back, a Khalil Herbert, or somebody like that, you would just do it, right? You'd rather take just the running back in the format and just trade away the pick instead of taking the rookie pick. Okay.
D-Bro said he hasn't understood the Rice Bros. That's what happens when you were closed-minded coming into the Senior Bowl. I don't think you even truly gave him a shot. I'm just being real, D-Bro. You can't be like, I don't like the guy before you've even seen him play. And then you see him do good and you still don't like him. He clicks every box metric-wise. I still don't like him. You didn't like the damn guy going into the process. It's okay, Derek. I'm going to pick you up tomorrow. We'll go have lunch in downtown Dallas. Scott, Brendan Rice is off the board at the 3-1 spot. Where are we going at 3-2?
What other receivers you think get capital that people somewhat like? Do you think
Malachi
Tez Walker,
Corley?
home run hitter?
Corley?
Polk? Jermaine Burton? Is Johnny Wilson a pick here?
Not
just
here.
With the outlier ceiling? No.
I
could
like
move
him
to tight end. I'm just saying it. I can write a path.
I think there are better bets to getting on the field early. Like Johnny Wilson could pay off, but at the 3-1 spot, I still think there are enough names that people like that you can take one of those guys, even if you're not penciling them in to plug them into your starting lineup. I think there's enough ADV left that you can't. I'm not taking him over Tez Walker. I'm not taking him over Polk. I'm honestly not taking over Audric Estime at this point in time in a half PPR league. I would take Audric Estime over Johnny Wilson. Just running back. He's a bruiser. You know what he is. People like him. If he does anything, I'll try to package him up and move him. So I think Estime or Walker would be on tap for me. And maybe Jaheim Bell.
I think I'm in the Estime, Ray Davis, Will Shipley are all going to go before we end this draft.
Let's do it.
Those are probably the next three running backs. I'd probably go Estime, Davis, Shipley in that order. And then we got two more picks.
I'd have taken me some Shipley. I like me some Shipley, but I'm with you. Those are the next three.
And then we already said Tez Walker. He will go too because he's going to get decent capital. So then we got one more pick. Who is the Mr. Irrelevant pick? One guy we haven't mentioned that I think people will fade, but could get draft capital. Are people going to even want Bucky Irving in a half PPR, Ray?
Yes.
I think he needs to go as well.
We
can't leave the draft without him.
It's so funny how many of us armchair scouts talk about how slow a 4.5 is, and then you see NFL people like, man, I gotten dusted by a lot of 4.6s in my time. 4.5 is moving. People, it may not be elite speed, right? And that's why Saquon gets drafted where he does. And that's why Bucky will be drafted where he is. But anybody out there thinking a 4.5 is slow, you're out of your damn mind. It is not slow. Relative to the elite Chris Johnsons, you're a step behind, but it ain't too slow. So I think people still like him enough to where if he gets a good spot right here at the 3.6, I'm in a half PPR. Give me Bucky Irving at the 3. This is a great pick. It's a great pick.
Okay, so we have 6 picks left. We're going to draft some ADV. I know it's 1 QB, but if we're doing 6 point per passing touchdown, would somebody take Michael Penix? I know he can't run, but if it's 6 point per passing touchdown, if we're taking friggin' Drake May in the second, I'm just saying. And again, in 1 QB, I don't care if my QB dies on the vine. If I get a year out of him and it gives me some use.
But you're talking about a second-round quarterback,
I don't play
right?
in 1 QB, Ray. I know. I'm just saying I don't play in 1 QB. But I bet if you needed a QB to play because someone says, oh, you don't have any, you're probably not trading a third to get Kirk Cousins, to even get Geno Smith. Like, that's what it's going to cost to get one of those guys. And we're assuming Penix goes to a spot where he is starting right away, if not this year. I mean, does he even get drafted, or would you just say, I don't even want to bother?
The capital. I mean, he's projected to be a second-round pick by most. I'm not taking a second-round quarterback.
And he's not going somewhere where they're correct. He's not going somewhere where they go, he's not going to start. If he's a second-round pick, he's going to a team that needs a QB. He's going to Denver. He's going to New England. He's going somewhere that doesn't get a QB early on. So I think if he's a second-round pick, he's going somewhere where he's starting this year, even if he only lasts for 1 year. You make the call. Do you even want to take another QB here, or do you want this board to be no more pink?
It could be pink, but it ain't getting pink yet. Malachi Corley, 3.7. And we got one real quick. Schultzer, the 306. This is from Cool 83 145. Dalton Schultzer, the 306 in this type of format.
Didn't I already say trade one of those seconds for Jake Ferguson? I would take Schultz easily.
Right. I think here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go for the format. I'm gonna go Corley. I'm going to set Jaheim Bell because it is 1.5 tight end premium. I am going to select Jalen Polk. I'm going to select we can have a conversation. Got to make sure we're not missing any hidden Javon Baker. You've got Luke McCaffrey.
Okay. Elimination exercise. Is there any other running backs that you say need to be drafted? Does Isaac Guerrero need to be drafted?
Not here. No.
It's a half PPR. I'm just saying. There's no other running backs.
Well, for the rest of the draft, yeah. There's still some running backs.
Okay, I got one for you. Yes. I'm going to steal him from you because you stole him from me last week. Right? We got to draft Kendall Milton, right? Big bruiser. Right? That's a half PPR.
That's a
wet if you've ever seen one.
Yes. A half PPR wet dream. Kendall Milton. Where's he at? He's very low. Okay, I'm going to take Javon Baker.
Okay.
Kendall Milton to come off the board here. I think Baker is good enough, and he's got ADV. People like Javon Baker. I like Javon Baker, which means people like Javon Baker. And Debro likes Javon Baker, which means people like Javon Baker. So who am I picking? Am I picking Javon? I already took Javon.
I think we wanted to go Kendall Milton as one of the picks.
All right. We end. Damian Parson from Giraffe Network is also on board with that Kendall Milton. So we'll go Milton here. McMillan, Wilson.
Make sure it's Kendall, man. Not Joe Milton.
No, I'm not taking Joe Milton. Kendall Milton. All right.
One pick left.
In the third round.
Tight end, will someone take Cade Stover or Theo Johnson? We got shit last week. We didn't draft Cade Stover. We took Theo Johnson instead. Should we go Cade Stover here?
I think Cade Stover's the better player, even though Theo Johnson's I'm not getting fooled by a goddamn athletic Penn State tight end ever again. They are on the ban list just like TCU wide receivers. Never again.
How about the history of those Ohio State tight ends, Ray? Go look at those. They're all the same. They're all like third, fourth round blockers.
Well, they're all bad. If they had a good one,
all of them. Why is Cade Stover any different?
He's not. He's no different. All right, Scott. So we've got 12 picks left. I kind of want to finish this out. So we'll do this. I
thought we were only going 3 rounds.
We're only going 3 rounds.
All right, we're not going deep in the fourth. We're only going 3. Yeah, no.
We've
You're in the fourth in one QB. You're a degenerate.
We pushed Scott to his limit. I'll just say some ADV players that I think are still on the board that you can draft. Jalen McMillan, Johnny Wilson. I think both of those guys have ADV. Malik Washington out of Virginia. I like Malik Washington, which means other people probably like him as well. Isaiah Davis. I think where's the name at? Where's the name at? I saw it. It's down here towards the bottom. Guerrero, Luke McCaffrey. I think those are all names worthy of a selection in a single quarterback in the fourth round. But if I could get out of any of these picks, Jacob Cowing, Jamari Thrash. Thrash is probably the one that you select in the fourth round. He ends up starting for 8 years in the NFL. He's never great, but watch Thrash be the one that just lands a starting job. He reminds me a lot of Jacoby Myers from the Las Vegas Raiders. So there it is. 3 round. Not only did we do a single QB mock, we talked damn Deion Sanders for about 10 minutes. We went through war haters for a couple of minutes, and we still got you 3 rounds through a single quarterback draft. So, Scott, takeaways, strategy, doing this exercise, and just, man, what are your thoughts here? Single quarterback. Transition to Superflex ASAP?
I mean, listen, if you want to play single QB, I've come to respect the fact that it's a different math equation, which is why we're doing this show. A lot of people always call for us to do single QB content. It's not what Ray and I play, so it's not like we're sitting there going, man, I'm really excited to make that one QB podcast or that one QB video. So I did want to go through this. I do think the most important things are understanding the relative QB scoring, 4.6 point per passing touchdown. How are people valuing QBs? That would determine if I even want to draft one or not. I'm not using no damn first round pick on a QB if I can go buy a Jared Goff for 212. But a lot of people are in leagues where they just hoard the shit out of QBs. One team has 6. Well, you know what? I'd rather hoard them than give them to Ray when he needs one. I'm never starting Derek Carr, but you're not getting him. You're not getting him unless you're giving me the 206. So it's almost like if you're in one of those leagues, you may have to draft to get. And then the other thing would be understand the tight end market and the running back market. Tight ends, once they get into the non-elite range, Dalton Schultz. I mean, someone asked Dalton Schultz or a third.
Or a third.
Run the war on Dalton Schultz. If he's a top 12 tight end, he's blowing away the running back bodies we're drafting. He's blowing away the receivers we took there. So, but people may go, oh, it's Dalton Schultz. He's not athletic. He's just a guy, you know, whatever. But there's probably value you can trade to non-sexy running backs and tight ends well above. And all you're trading away is ADV. You want Malachi Corley? Sure. Give me Dalton Schultz. Give me Gus Edwards. Give me someone I can use in the short term. You can have the pick. Know where those lines are.
There it is. There it is. Appreciate everybody tapping in. Destination Chill Sunday night, GGP. Good evening, good people. I see a bunch of new names in the chat as well. So before we get out of here, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you tap into everything that we got cooking over here at Destination Devy. Scott's putting out multiple pieces of content each week. He and Shane are also doing stuff on the Destination Devy podcast feed. Manic and Chill, Trades in 5, Clay, Shane, Scott, and the crew. We have partnered together, and we've got a lot of big stuff planned for you all. So before you get out of here, hit that yellow thumbs up button. Hit that damn thumbs up button. Like the DD content. Make sure you're tapped in everything you're doing, and make sure y'all wake y'all ass up with me and Jay Rich tomorrow. We're going to do some new stuff too. Hey, pick'ems, underdog pick'ems. Me and Jay Rich have ventured in the sports betting realm. So come hang out with us Wednesday and Friday. We're going to have some fun. Major League Baseball, it's on its way back. Scott, thank you for this night, man. I appreciate chopping it up with you as always. But we do have one small, sad announcement that we must bring forth here at the end of the show. Destination Chill will no longer happen on Wednesday nights. It's over temporarily. For the offseason, we will only be going Sunday nights moving forward. In seasons, once the NFL is back and Sunday Night Football is here, we'll move back to the Wednesday time, but Destination Chill, one day a week. I think from the combine, trades, like we're just doing a lot. We want to make sure that we're giving you guys quality and not quantity. So Destination Chill moving forward, not on Wednesday nights anymore, only on Sundays through the offseason. Once we get back to the regular NFL season, we will go back. No Sunday nights. It'll be Wednesday night, and we'll flip-flop like that. So appreciate everybody being in the building. We had one super chat. Scott, can you hit it before we get out of here? What are your thoughts right here? I'm in a 1 QB, full PPR. I've got 101, 102, and 106. I was thinking of taking RB1 at 106 after taking Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. What do you think? We kind of had this talk earlier.
Yeah, I mean, if the RB1 lasts to the 106, you know, a full PPR, they may not value Bowers. He may fall back. You may get Bowers. But, man, it feels good to have that 101 and 102 in this year's class
Feels
in
great.
a 1 QB. It just feels like you've lapped everybody else in the field by, like, 3 laps on the racetrack. So it feels good to do that. And, Ray, tap into the Discord on Wednesday nights. You know, Destination Chill's gone, but the Discord AMA with Ray, myself, a lot of our patrons, sometimes those go like 2+ hours. So if you miss this on Wednesday nights, join the Patreon, join on the website, tap into the Discord. It's open to everybody in the Discord, no matter what tier you're on. Wednesday nights, AMAs with Ray. Sometimes you get to see a different side of the crew in there. So if you're not, you know, doing something else, tap into the Discord, sign up, and you'll see us there Wednesday nights instead of here.
We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a blessed and fantastic start to y'all week. Make sure you tapped in everything over here at Destination Devi. And until next Sunday night, be chill, y'all. We out. Peace.